In Django Unchained, with the help of his mentor, a slave-turned-bounty hunter sets out to rescue his wife from a brutal Mississippi plantation owner.
Something up with these two. Them old boys done rode a lot of miles, went to a lot of trouble just to get that gal.
Hey, little troublemaker.
You silver-tongued devil, you.
They playing your ass for a fool.
I spent my whole life surrounded by black faces. I only had one question. Why don't they just rise up and kill the whites?
Who knows what could happen?
I like Quentin Tarantino movies as much as the next guy. I'm not specifically a diehard fan of Quentin Tarantino or anything like that, but I've always enjoyed his movies, and so I was definitely looking forward to Django Unchained. Mainly, I have to say, because I thought Leonardo DiCaprio looked awesome. This is something I haven't seen him do before, and it looked like he totally owned it and was having a blast with it, and so that's really what drew me in more than anything. And while I do think it was a bit long, it is a bit long, I guess that's a fact, it definitely was awesome, and it had me engaged for most of it. I'll obviously get into where I had a couple of hiccups, but for the most part, I was totally into it from start to finish, and I think there's plenty for Quentin Tarantino fans to enjoy. It feels like a Quentin Tarantino movie for sure, and there are some moments that I could see being considered classic Tarantino moments years from now. I wouldn't be surprised. But let's get a little more in-depth with Django Unchained, starting off with the plot and the writing, which I have to say, it's pretty much what you expect from Tarantino. It is that fierce dialogue that drags on for so long that you're wondering, why am I not bored? Why am I totally into this? He does such a great job with this kind of stuff. And there are plenty of long scenes, long dialogue, not a whole lot going on other than people talking, and it is intense. It is fantastic. But as far as the plot itself goes, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was clever. And the only thing is, it kind of felt like two separate stories. You know, the first half and the second half almost felt like two separate stories, and I almost picture it like two episodes of a TV show, because when one sort of story, I guess you could say, it wasn't completely done because there were elements that obviously went into the next story with the wife, getting the wife back, but getting those brothers kind of felt like its own story, and it felt like it was done. And I would have been happy with just that as a short film, or a shorter film. And I'm not suggesting that they could have been split and worked on their own. Maybe they could have, but that's not what I'm getting at. I just think that because it was a very long movie, maybe there's some way it could have been a little shorter. And I actually think it's more so in the second half, actually probably in the last quarter, where it kind of felt like it was coming to the end and then it went on a little longer, and I wasn't as into it for the little longer, I guess you could say, as I was for the rest of it, because I was totally into it for the whole thing, and then I felt it got a little bit messy-ish, and I was feeling a little distanced from it compared to the rest. So I don't really know. It's not that huge of a deal. It's just something that while I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is the point where I kind of lost it a little bit. I actually kind of thought it felt like a superhero story in a way, because Django, the character, felt like a superhero, maybe like a Robin Hood type of superhero in a way, in a weird way. Directing-wise, Quentin Tarantino does it again. I mean, it's memorable. It is very Tarantino. It's like his own genre, and this fits right in there, and I really do think any fans of Quentin Tarantino are going to love this and just eat it right up. I do think that it felt a little self-indulgent at times, because the thing is, it's purposefully goofy at times with, you know, the obviously crazy gore, the unrealistic looking gore, and, you know, at one point someone gets blasted back by a gunshot, like the totally wrong way. It's like an explosion went off, and I love it, but I do feel like it took me out of it a little bit, just because for most of it, I was invested in it to the point where I was hoping, you know, oh, I hope the characters are okay. But then it gets to the point where it starts to feel a little bit too silly. Silly's not the right word, but you probably know what I mean. And it feels like nothing really matters. It almost feels like someone could have just come back from the dead. You know, it felt like that could have happened. So I got a little bit less invested in worrying about the characters, I guess you could say. So yeah, I don't know if that's really that big of a deal. I don't really know if that's an important factor, but I'm just saying that's what I felt. Otherwise, I love that. I thought that it was hilarious. I was laughing a lot. I thought that it was really fun gore, because like I said, it's very over the top and crazy. It's supposed to feel that way. It's like a 70s kind of style almost. And I thought that he did a great job with that. The zooms, the quick zooms on people were great. And so yeah, overall, Quentin Tarantino, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie for sure, in a good way. And acting-wise, I thought everybody gave great performances. I really don't think there was a weak one in the bunch. They were so confident and so into it. They knew exactly what they were doing. And I, of course, will start with the main ones. Christoph Waltz was fantastic. Jamie Foxx was really good, but the thing is, I feel like it wasn't so much of a character. It was kind of just a straight shooting Jamie Foxx, like a subdued Jamie Foxx, because he's, you know, like the hip, cool guy usually. This was not that, but it wasn't really much of a different character. But my favorite by far was Leonardo DiCaprio. I thought everybody was great. Really, really great. But in my opinion, he knocked it out of the park. I was excited to see him, and he did not let me down. I thought he was fantastic. I could watch an entire movie just with that character, I think. He was great. I thought everybody else was great, too. Sam Jackson, Jonah Hill was funny for his little part. Kerry Washington, I thought was really, really good. And I have to, of course, go back to Quentin Tarantino. I thought it was funny to see him. I forgot that he was going to be in it because I think somebody dropped out or something like that. But I thought his part was funny, and what happens to his character was great. And the last thing I'll touch on is that I read a few headlines of people being offended by some of the things in the movie, the themes, the language, I guess you could say. And I totally forgot about all that stuff when I was watching the movie. And after the fact, I thought, really? It's a movie. I don't know. I don't think Quentin Tarantino's intention is to offend people. And so I think it's all right. I mean, you know, that's how people talked. And so I don't really have a problem with it. But maybe you have a problem with it. I'd love to know. Please let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see how people feel about it. I personally didn't, but it's all up to your opinion, I suppose. But overall, I loved Django Unchained. I thought it was great. I thought that it was exciting. I thought it was clever. I thought the music was great, too. I didn't mention that. The music was awesome. I loved how it was totally different types of music throughout. I thought it really worked well. Quentin Tarantino has not let us down. Anyone who's a fan, like I said, I think will really enjoy this. And once again, I'm not a diehard Quentin Tarantino fan, but I've always enjoyed his films. I enjoyed this one just as much. But let me know in the comments what you thought of Django Unchained. I'm definitely curious because I feel like, you know, there's some weird stuff to it. Maybe people won't be into the vibe of the movie, the kind of tone of the movie if you're not into Quentin Tarantino, or maybe if you are. I'm curious, if you're a fan, what did you think? Did this stack up with the rest of his movies? Let me know what you thought of the acting. Who was your favorite? Once again, Leo all the way for me. I thought he was amazing, but I loved everybody. Let me know anything that you want about Django Unchained, and that's pretty much it.
Adult supervision is required.